again, welcome to Breakfast Central. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I want to urge you to be a part of the show this morning and share your thoughts with us. Are you pleased or impressed with the update that has been made by the National Assembly, by the Senate regarding the electoral reforms? You know, the latest tweaking. Let us know on YouTube if it, suits your palate. We're streaming live on News Central TV, live on YouTube. Drop your comments and we'll take comments from the comment section. I'm Olive Emodi and you're welcome to the show.
Welcome to the program. This is Breakfast Central.
Well, I'm Joe Hansen saying welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for staying with us. I think no doubt the first and the biggest story in the land has got to do with the transmission of results. So we're done with the era of transfers. But guess who showed up yesterday wearing, like what I'm wearing, white, but just that he had his hands, on his waist. And there's the way he walks, and he walked.
He had his arms akimbo.
Yes, akimbo. And then he came in a long time. And then he came with his son and said, okay, my son is here in case anybody is, tear gas, sick. My son is a doctor. I told him to join the protest.
Joe, why are you saying this?
He takes care of them. So
Joe, why you sound
No,
like
are you in his mind? He's speaking.
I'm just saying what he said.
No. Because yesterday, when we were talking about Peter Obi joining the protest, we were asking, based off the reports we were getting from Nigerians, now where were the other political bigwigs? And now he has shown up. Are you people not happy?
I said, I'm just saying what he said.
Okay.
I'm a journalist. I'm reporting what happened. Anyway, the story simply is that former River State Governor Rotimi Amaechi joined the protest at the National Assembly in Abuja yesterday, demanding transparency in the electoral process. Now, Amaechi stood shoulder to shoulder, of course, with hands, right behind or, at the waist. Demonstrators were also there, including civil society groups and political figures, aside from others, including the likes of Peter Obi, who called for mandatory electronic transfer of results. You did have human rights activists, so many of them. Aisha Yusuf, who was there. We could go ahead and mention different names and so on. And one man too was there. Amaechi as well joined the protest yesterday, and he said a lot. But let's start the show first by listening to the former River State Governor, former minister, and you can name it. Just take a listen.
What's the advantage of transmission? Electronic transmission. The advantage that very few persons will die on the election field. Very few Nigerians. You are saving the lives of Nigerians. The current situation you have now is that every election, people are dying in their droves, in their large number. And because people are dying, they don't care. That day, Senator Akpabio will be in his mansion with police, with army protecting him, while people like us will be on the field. And they are rigging the election. But you know one funny thing? If you think they won't rig, you're wasting time. To stop them from rigging, we must come out in large numbers.
The expectations of Nigerians who are expecting real-time electronic, transfer to the various levels of, of the elections. But what we got is a mixture of electronic and manual transmission, which is going to cause more confusion or chaos. Then you will have a single tier, electoral transmission system, which is real-time electronic. That would be our preference. And I think there is need for all the opposition political parties to come together to pursue this issue. I mean, we shouldn't allow it to rest where they wanted it to rest today. Absolutely not. I don't support that.
Honorable, if not for this protest, the Senate President, sir, with all due respect, sir, the Senate came back from holidays at the end of January. After sitting for about 3 days, the House and the Senate went on recess to resume on the 18th and on the 24th of February. So if not for the pressure that Nigerians are putting, so you people will not come back to come and do the right thing. So we are supposed to drag this thing to the end of the year.
Do we drag you people? So I don't speak for the Senate, and I don't hold brief for the Senate. We have and come out with the joint position.
The same National Assembly that changed everything for 1 day. Hold on. If Tinubu wants to borrow money today, it will be under 30 minutes. If he cannot protect national anthem, it's 1 Monday. Why is electronic and electoral reform bill taking how many years? It is not to listen to us. It is to take action. We want action, not to listen. We are tired. We are tired. We are tired.
So if you agree with him, you agree with me when I put the votes. When I ask for the votes, when I ask for your consent, let me read the motion. His earlier motion which passed in our last sitting, he has sought to rescind that, that is in respect of section 60 subsection 3. And this is what he says: that the presiding officer shall electronically transmit the results from each polling unit to the IReV portal, and such transmission shall be done after the prescribed form EC8A has been signed and stamped by the presiding officer and or countersigned by the candidates or polling agents where available at the polling units, because sometimes you don't see any polling agent. Provided that if the electronic transmission of the result fails, if it fails as a result of communication failure, in other words, maybe network or otherwise, and it becomes impossible to transmit the result electronically in form EC8A, signed and stamped by the presiding officer and or countersigned candidates or polling agents where available at the polling units, the form EC8A shall in such a case be the primary source of collation and declaration of results. So distinguished colleagues, if anybody has a counter motion, you move it later. But in the meantime, those in support of the motion as enunciated by Senator Mongunu and seconded by Senator Bamoro, say aye. Aye. And those again say nay. Nay. The ayes have it.
I told you.
You know,
that was still going to be subject.
You are right.
I'm sure Nigerians are now relaxed.
Relaxed.
They've approved it now.
No.
However, they gave it.
That's not what they were calling for, Joe.
But they gave a provision and said where there's no network.
What I recall that they were pushing for. Now, transmission, transfer, all sounds like semantics. But the main crux of the issue was the inclusion of the word in real time. Transmission in real time. So as they are doing it, they are doing the transmission. It's not the one that will do it later, say, oh, there was no network, or we're using this one. Now, what he's saying is, yes, they will do it too, but in case it didn't work out, we'll put up, we'll ensure. How about mandating INEC to ensure that the infrastructure, to ensure that the transmission goes through, works? Look at the suggestion that Mr. Amaechi gave yesterday on the show, was talking about Starlink, and saying if they confirm, okay, there are about, I think, 7 or 9 states that have these issues. For the purpose of election, invest in that season to ensure that all of them have network, so that this can happen. If you realize that, and if they see the importance of election as a key tool for determining the fairness of any country's democracy, particularly in Nigeria, where we've had keenly contested elections, they will put whatever they need to put in place to ensure that the elections are seen as not just free and fair and credible, but seen to be free, fair and credible by the majority. Because it's one thing for you to say it's free, fair and credible, but the majority of people don't see that. So you put in whatever resources needs to be put in place. But maybe we should hear from Peter
the National Assembly
and those protesting to see if this, this will be okay for them not to.
The National Assembly has done its part. It's left for, I mean, if this ends up in the Supreme Court, I wonder how the Supreme Court will interpret this if there's a petition that goes all the way to Supreme Court. But the ball is now in INEC's court to make sure that they have all it takes to ensure that they have the necessary infrastructure. And it's a good thing that they've identified those states that might have troubles with their network, so they can have backup services. And there's still time before the general elections. I believe we have over a year to prepare. So let's not be perennial skeptics. I do understand where the skepticism is coming from, where the trust deficit is coming from, but there's room for INEC to hit the ground running and provide us with free and fair elections. And Professor Joash Amovito's reputation is at stake, and I'm sure for all he has built professionally, he wouldn't want to lose it on the altar of...
So, I mean, two things for me stand out. One, has the Senate President redeemed his image now? Is he free? Can he be let go? You know, because he has
Nobody
now,
was holding him.
No, he was being held accountable for not...
As he should.
Yes. But is he free now? That's one. If Nigerians say he's free because he has done what was required of him to do, then that's one side. Two, we also need to remember that the Senate President is not the only senator that's right there in the Senate. You do have other senators who are equally seated. Many have given kudos, 100% kudos to Senator Abaribe and the rest who stood up, and we think that's quite commendable.
Do you realize the hashtag Akpabio must go is trending on X?
Yes, no, it's
I'm
fine.
looking at the tweets.
It's fine.
Trending
You still
on
have aggrieved Nigerians. It's
Yeah, I mean,
X.
it's the beauty of democracy. Everyone is not going to be on the same page.
Him out.
Yeah, the
Senate,
108 other senators, yeah.
So he must go, doesn't mean he will go. And in Nigeria, we know that it is hard to see anybody in power or in leadership that will resign. He had, let's be honest. But I just wanted to highlight something before we go to what Nigerians are saying. My point is this. What are the three ways? What are the ways in which, after this has been approved by the Senate and has been passed to law, that rigging can still, you know, go on? What are ways in which rigging can still go on, despite the fact that they've said transmit, please, I beg your pardon, electronically? And people are highlighting ways. That's another thing we should look at. I think that's where, whether the political parties, Nigerians, whoever, they can look at ways in which, but I think one of it is, if people fail to come out, in quotes, to, last time, remember some of the, during the election of 2023, there were no agents in polling units, so agents were no longer there. But in this case, if you sign the form EC80 and it's signed by the polling agents, and of course the political parties are there present, and then they announce the final result and you snap, everybody should snap, everybody should have their own portal. And if 5 people have the same results, I don't see why, if you put it in the IReV, it will change. If it changes, then there's proof, and that should be made clear. So I think everybody should just relax. And let's
well,
just see
not everybody relaxes. You are talking though. On social media, I'm not seeing that they're relaxing. I saw one tweet. Someone says our demands: number 1, mandatory real-time electronic transmission of election results. Number 2, where network fails, that polling unit must, he put must in capital letter, must be cancelled and election rescheduled. No buts. Hashtag Occupy NAS 2026. Hashtag Akpabio must go. We'll take some tweets on X, but let's take comments on YouTube. Chuka Ochiama says, my greatest surprise was A. Naya's 360 degrees capitulation. Chai! What a very disgraced anti-people Senate. Mokuye Chukwuemeka says, this was another chance for Nigerians to show that we're not joking, but we missed it again. The numbers were too low. Nigerians want transmission of results in real time, not what they passed. We will still have a glitch next year. Let's see on X what Nigerians are saying. You can keep the comments coming on YouTube, but let's go to X and take what Nigerians are saying.
Amontaya Williams says manual collation must be erased from Nigeria's electoral system. It's what gives people like Senator Akpabio confidence they will remain in power.
Manual collation, it is well.
Princess Luna says,
Nigerians, listen to me.
This new sham of a reenactment is even worse than the original thing. Akpabio has simply advanced that the results will be electronically transmitted, and that in case where there's no electricity, there will be room for manual methods. This is a deceptive clause, because at the end of the day, we all know that on that day of elections, electricity will be deliberately tampered with, and this will give INEC the prerogative to go the manual way. Okay, these devices don't work with electricity. They are battery operated. So, Princess Luna, this hasn't.
We're going to have a guest who would highlight.
We're talking about
today.
network and satellite communications. Yes. Mohad says that clause "if" is another way to rig heavily. If is a conditional. Should in case of incapacity.
Boya.
Theo Abu says, what Akpabio and his men are trying to tell you is that there will be no network coverage results. There will be no network coverage, results will be cooked regardless and sent from the polling units to collation centers manually. Why are we so pessimistic?
It can't happen like that.
As a people,
see, there are steps.
Abiodun says, now, all their INEC has to do on election day, say transmission failed, and we're back to square one yet again.
Okay. Let me just highlight something. Remember in 2023, you had the Lagos State gubernatorial candidate, Rival. He had his own monitoring center, he had his own room where he was monitoring the elections, even though he tried explaining to Nigerians that, according to him, it was rigged. Of course, the INEC and every other person had moved on. INEC had moved on, and the current governor was, congratulated immediately that he had won the elections. The point is when people say they will switch off power at the polling units, take generator to the polling units, buy fuel, start the generator. If this one fails, generator will work. They don't have internet.
Hotspots.
What are you doing? Go with the internet, fire it on, put the hotspot there. The only thing that will happen is, like former River State governor had said, he said, if you don't come out in numbers. But if you are there in numbers, remember 2023, we did see videos while we were covering it here live on the station. As journalists, we were at different areas. For some of us, were in the studio. And we saw when they were counting the numbers. 1, 2, 3, right? And at the end, people shouted, and people knew the results. The only difference was that they saw the results and they were happy. And it brought a new song. Remember the song?
LUP 72. LUP.
And at the end, what they saw, after singing that song, they said what they saw on the IReV was not what they saw then. Then the question came, where are the images? People started bringing images. Look at this one. This is what we saw. There were variations of images. So the only way to, now you should be smarter to know how to stop that. So what I'm trying to say is, if as a journalist, you're following these stories, you saw all these things, those who are planning to go there, it means that you too, you have to think 100 times faster as it is. That's just it.
And at the end of the day, one of the most important elements is people should turn up. Yeah, they should come out and exercise their franchise. They need to show up in large numbers so that you can protect your vote and prevent any sort of manipulations that might happen.
Well, so there are so many factors, and I completely, wholeheartedly, and totally agree with people coming out in their numbers. However, I hope that what we saw in 2023 will not repeat itself. In 2023, the estate I was living at the time, I wanted to vote. Okay, I didn't have to vote in that estate. My polling center was in the house I was living before, and where we registered our former area many years ago. That's where our former office. So that's where my polling center was. So I needed to leave the house to come to studio. Joe, I kid you not. People were like, they were thugs. It was like an estate versus thugs fight. The thugs were coming into the estate to disrupt the elections. So that's another angle we have to look at. This will not completely safeguard our votes. What measures will be put in place? And I agree with you that when the people come out in numbers, the people will definitely overpower the thugs. But maybe now is also another time to start revisiting whether law enforcement agents will be carrying weapons.
They need to be proactive because there are certain areas that are known for certain voting patterns. And if they don't vote, traditionally they vote in a particular way. And the thugs have also done their intelligence to identify this area. So they need to map out black spots, areas that are susceptible to electoral violence and disruptions, and be proactive. They need to send police units there. The Nigerian police, but we've seen that they will be political and they're not unbiased umpires, which is very unfortunate. So the people have to, one way or the other, find a way to protect themselves and make sure that their votes count.
Whatever
by organizing.
Remember the CSO, civil society organizations, police, INEC, political parties, they all meet during the peace agreement and all that. They all have that meeting. And they all agree that, listen, we're going to follow the rules and so on. But in time immemorial, we've seen that when it's time for the election,
the foot soldiers are not even aware that...
foot soldiers are not, even, we saw videos where police officers were running away. Some were even sleeping while things were going on. Some, the thugs came and they were flogging people and all that. The police, just look behind you, the police officers were just standing there and looking, you know. So those are the things that, you know, the opposition will have to
But
do.
1 year is a long time. Like,
you think so?
If there's a will to turn things around, that's if there's a will. I put that caveat there, the conditional if. But that if is a very big if.
Well, Will Smith is not here in Nigeria. If there's a will.
Anyway.
Let's move on to some very sad news. Terrorists have reportedly attacked several communities in Taraba State, with about 70 people feared dead as a result of these attacks. Residents say warnings were ignored before the deadly assault. The coordinated militant attacks on communities in Chanchangi Council Ward, Takum local government area of Taraba State, have left at least 70 people feared dead, according to community leaders and advocacy groups. The attacks reportedly hit villages, including Amadu and Abokpa, in early February, with homes destroyed and residents forced to flee. Local representatives alleged that distress calls were made during the violent attacks, but security response was delayed. Recovery efforts are said to be ongoing, but leaders of the community warn that the death toll could rise as more victims are being unaccounted for. My heart breaks in 100 little pieces. Every time we have to read these stories, I feel that there's a part of me that has to be numb to be able to power through these stories because of how emotionally distressing, how very incredibly depressing these stories are. These are numbers. We just call these numbers like they are random numbers. 70 people dead. And I promise you that that is not the complete number. I promise you that if they do a deeper check, more people were killed. We are living at the crux of being torn apart. We're going ahead with politicking. Politics is taking the order of the day while we are advocating for, you know, politicians are doing what they know how to do best. Nigerians are dying. They are dying in their numbers.
And I bet you it's not headline news in the newspapers.
People seem to have moved on from it. I saw a post yesterday. A certain pastor posted about it.
It should be front page news in all the national
Dami Oluwatoyinbo. And I had to go and comment. I said to him, because he said Nigeria is bleeding, and I can't agree more. I saw the different headlines. So what he did was he put clippings of different newspapers. People are not watching the news anymore. I speak to people who say, I don't watch the news because I want to protect my mental health. And I said to him that the hardest thing for us as TV hosts is to come here every day and discuss these same incredibly sad, heartbreaking stories. And what's worse is that the fact that we don't even see the way out. We don't even see what the hope is.
Breaking point that, okay, this is the last.
Do you understand?
We don't want to hear anything about
I'm reporting this thing tomorrow. I cannot guarantee you that today, I can't guarantee that tomorrow I will not come back and say the same thing.
People that have been appointed to protect Nigerians are still in their jobs. You know, people still taking photo-ops, smiling, you know, releasing copy and paste condolence messages. Nothing is changing.
Condemning, that's all they know how to do.
Last week in Woro, Woro and parts of Katsina, there were killers, and now in Taraba.
We're hearing Nigerian citizens being rounded up, burnt in their homes.
When we're not, I mean, there's no declaration of war. This is peacetime, and you're seeing these numbers. These sorts of numbers only happen in active war zones, in places where you have active warfare. And I mean, how can you have this sort of numbers? It's very, very unfortunate. And there will be no resignation after this. Nobody will be held responsible for this. And it's just, I mean, that's why I spoke about the value of a Nigerian life, or Which Way Nigeria Monday. What is really the value of a Nigerian life if every other day we hear reports of Nigerians in high numbers being killed? If we started flying flags at half-mast after every killing, the flags of Nigeria will stay permanently at half-staff. No.
Do you know what makes this thing sad was the fact that I was thinking, Joe, this could be any of us. And if anything happened to us, everybody would just move on. You know, life would just go on. Nothing will happen. Nothing. They would just do social media posts for you. But someone would just die for nothing.
It's painful. It's painful. the president himself had declared state of emergency on insecurity in September last year.
As the First Lady highlighted.
This is why that interview of yesterday that we talked about.
Since he did that, we haven't seen an impactful movement.
Or improvement.
In quelling, stopping, and doing all necessary movements to halt these incessant killings. It is as if when that statement was made, there was a short breather, and then it doubled. Because what we're seeing now, the figures we're starting to see, Benga, these figures are likened to the figures we had seen 2-3 years ago, especially in Jos Plateau State, where 100 and something were killed during the period of the Christmas period, the Yuletide season. And later on it dropped. But have you noticed now that the consistency in the high number is becoming too much? 200, 170. By the way, some people were kidnapped in Benue 2 days ago. By the way, some people were killed in Benue yesterday. So it seems like these terrorists are coming all out. People will tell you that whenever it is election season, that you usually have high number of attacks like this. And that's exactly what the trend shows. Because these people, possibly, why are they coming up?
But that's
you
not,
might need to take care of
that's not an excuse.
But that's not
you
an
have
excuse.
the means of state. You have weapons. You can deploy security services.
You have the United States.
And the buck stops at your table as Commander-in-Chief and Head of State. When former President Goodluck Jonathan was president, you need to go through President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's tweets. Then he didn't give him any
he didn't give him breathing space at all.
So why should we feel sorry? You said don't feel sorry for me. I know the problems. I'm coming inside to change things. So do something. The buck stops at Mr. President's table. Because it was the same type of energy, and rightfully so, that, you know, he was on former President Jonathan's toes that he should do something about insecurity. And I wonder why opposition we actually
where are all those who came out to protest back then? Where are they? Whether they are the pastors, where they are the social socialites, name them, the celebrities. And it's quite a shame, and I must say it here, that the so-called celebrities that people are looking up to are busy running around and calling themselves city boys or something. And look at what
how do you even have the nerve to campaign
when people are dying? People are dying. And it's why, as I wrap up this thing, it's why I would say I still don't understand in what capacity the First Lady was giving an explanation as to what has been done to provide security for Nigerians. Nigerians don't feel safe. We don't feel safe. It's not safe here. We don't feel like, you know, because our brothers are dying. And you may think, oh, I'm in Lagos, or I'm in this part. It doesn't affect me. They say, hey, what goes around comes around. One day, I'm trying to remember that quote that says, when it happens to these people, no one spoke up for them. When it happens, and soon when it happens to you, there'll be no one to speak up for you. So it's just a shame that people go to their bed and then they don't know where they will wake up. They don't know if they will wake up. 70 people dying, and the world and Nigerians are continuing like that.
You know, and then you go on an overseas trip. I mean, if Joe came to my house for a visit, for a social visit, and I know that he has issues in his house, I would look at him somehow. How do you even, what pride are you
like you leave your own home?
For the most flimsy excuses, you know, holidays that are not, trips that are not mandatory that you could push forward or avoid. In the middle of a crisis, you travel. What message does that say?
Anyway, we'll continue to talk about this, these stories. It's very, I can't even lie about how depressing it is to talk about this. But let's bring you the top stories this morning on Breakfast Central.